a boy who sold newspapers and became a millionaire. A motivational story. Chapter 1. The struggles begin. Under the dim streetlights of a bustling city, a young boy named Ahmed ran through the cold streets, clutching a bundle of newspapers. His clothes were old, his shoes had holes, and his stomach often growled with hunger. But his eyes held a spark, an unshakable determination to change his fate. Ahmed had lost his father at a young age, and his mother struggled to make ends meet. He knew that if he wanted to help her, he had to work. Selling newspapers was the only job he could find, so every morning before sunrise, he would collect the stack from the printing press and rush to sell them to early commuters. Despite the harsh weather and rude customers, Ahmed never complained. He knew education was the key to a better future, but he couldn't afford school fees. Instead, he would read the newspapers he sold, learning new words and gaining knowledge about the world. One evening, as he counted his earnings, he made a promise to himself: one day, I will not just sell newspapers, I will own a business that prints them. Little did he know, this promise would change his life forever. Chapter 2. The Power of Reading. Ahmed realized that knowledge was his greatest weapon. He saved a few coins every day to buy old books from second-hand stores. After work, he would sit under the streetlights, reading for hours. The more he read, the more he understood about business, success, and the world around him. One day, an elderly man noticed Ahmed reading a financial newspaper. Impressed, he asked, "Why do you read so much, boy?" Ahmed looked up and smiled. "Because I want to be more than just a newspaper seller. I want to be a businessman." The man, Mr. Karim, was a retired entrepreneur. Seeing the determination in Ahmed's eyes, he decided to guide him. "If you want to be a businessman, you need to learn about money, investments, and hard work," he said. "Are you ready for that?" Ahmed nodded eagerly. That night, he felt something new in his heart: hope. He knew that his journey was just beginning, and he was ready to fight for his dreams. Chapter 3. Learning from a Mentor. Ahmed's life began to change after meeting Mr. Karim. Every evening after selling newspapers, he would visit the old man's small shop, where they would sit and discuss business, money, and success. Mr. Karim taught him the value of saving, investing, and thinking big. "You don't need a lot of money to start a business," Mr. Karim explained one day. "You need the right mindset. Wealth starts in the mind before it appears in the pocket." Ahmed listened carefully, absorbing every lesson like a sponge. Inspired by his mentor, Ahmed started saving every extra penny he earned. Instead of spending on unnecessary things, he focused on his goal. He even started selling newspapers in new areas where he saw more potential customers, increasing his earnings. Despite his growing responsibilities, Ahmed never stopped reading. He borrowed business books from a local library and dreamed of the day he would run his own company. His hunger for success was stronger than ever. Chapter 4. A New Opportunity. One day, Ahmed noticed something interesting. Many of his customers were businessmen who struggled to find time to buy newspapers. He had an idea: what if he delivered newspapers directly to their offices before they even arrived? He shared this idea with Mr. Karim, who smiled proudly. "That's called innovation, my boy. Go for it." Ahmed wasted no time. He approached business offices, offering early morning newspaper delivery. Many agreed, appreciating his dedication and punctuality. Soon, Ahmed's income doubled. He even hired 2 other boys to help him with deliveries. At just 14 years old, he had already taken his first step towards becoming a businessman. But success was not easy. Some people laughed at him, saying he was just a poor boy who would never amount to anything. Ahmed ignored them. He had learned an important lesson: never let negativity stop you from chasing your dreams. Chapter 5. Facing Challenges. As Ahmed's small business grew, so did the challenges. Some days, his newspaper supply would be late, making it hard to meet delivery deadlines. Other times, rain would soak his newspapers before he could sell them. Instead of complaining, Ahmed found solutions. He made deals with a printing press to get an earlier supply. On rainy days, he used plastic covers to protect his newspapers. Every problem became a lesson, making him stronger and smarter. One morning, a man in a suit stopped him and said, "I see you every day, working harder than anyone else. What drives you?" Ahmed smiled and replied, "I want to build a better life for my mother and myself." The man, impressed by his dedication, handed him a business card. "Come see me when you're ready to take the next step." Ahmed looked at the card. It belonged to a successful businessman. His heart raced with excitement. Was this the opportunity he had been waiting for? Chapter 6: The Bold Decision. Ahmed kept the business card safely in his pocket. He wanted to contact the businessman, but fear held him back. What if he thinks I'm just a foolish boy, he wondered. But then he remembered something Mr. Karim had told him: successful people take risks. Summoning all his courage, Ahmed visited the businessman's office. The receptionist looked at him suspiciously, but after explaining who he was allowed inside. The businessman, Mr. Hamid, smiled when he saw him. "I like your determination, Ahmed," Mr. Hamid said. "Tell me, what do you want to achieve?" Ahmed took a deep breath and replied, "I want to start my own newspaper business one day." Mr. Hamid was impressed. "I started as a small vendor too. Let me give you some advice. If you want to build a newspaper company, you must understand writing, printing, and marketing." That meeting changed Ahmed's life. He now had a clear direction for his future. Chapter 7: Expanding the Business. With renewed determination, Ahmed started thinking bigger. Instead of just selling newspapers, he began offering advertisements to local shops. He would tell shopkeepers, "If you place an ad in the newspaper, more people will know about your business." To his surprise, many shopkeepers agreed. Soon, he was earning commissions from ads, increasing his income even more. He realized that sales and marketing were key skills for any businessman. Mr. Karim and Mr. Hamid both continued guiding him. They taught him about profits, expenses, and customer relationships. Ahmed absorbed everything, turning knowledge into action. His mother noticed the changes in him. "You are no longer just a newspaper seller," she said one night. "You are becoming a businessman." Ahmed smiled. He was finally on the path he had dreamed of. Chapter 8: The First Big Investment. Ahmed's confidence grew with each passing day. He saved enough money to take his business to the next level. After discussing with Mr. Karim and Mr. Hamid, he made his first major investment, buying a second-hand bicycle. This bicycle allowed him to cover more areas and deliver newspapers faster. His customers appreciated the timely service, and word spread about the hard-working young boy who never gave up. More offices and shopkeepers signed up for his delivery service. One day, while riding through the city, he passed by a printing press. He stopped and watched the giant machines printing thousands of newspapers. A thought struck him: one day, he wanted to own a printing press like this. His dream was getting bigger, and he knew that to achieve it, he needed more than just hard work. He needed to understand the newspaper business inside out. Chapter 9: Learning the Newspaper Business. Ahmed decided to learn everything about how newspapers were made. He asked Mr. Hamid if he could visit the printing press. Impressed by his eagerness, Mr. Hamid arranged for him to tour the facility. Ahmed watched as journalists wrote articles, designers arranged pages, and machines printed thousands of copies. He realized that newspapers were not just about selling, they were about information, creativity, and business strategy. He started taking notes and asking questions. The press manager was surprised at his curiosity. "Most kids don't care about these things. Why are you so interested?" Ahmed replied, "Because I won't be selling newspapers forever, I'll be publishing them one day." That day, he made up his mind. His journey as a businessman had just begun, but his ultimate goal was clear: he would create his own newspaper company. Chapter 10: A Tough Setback. Just as things were going well, Ahmed faced a huge challenge. One morning, he woke up to find his bicycle stolen. It was his only means of delivery, and without it, his business would slow down. For the first time, he felt helpless. He sat on the roadside, wondering if all his hard work had been for nothing. But then he remembered something Mr. Karim had told him: successful people don't quit when things go wrong, they find a way forward. Instead of giving up, Ahmed borrowed a bicycle from a kind neighbor. He promised to return it in a few months after saving enough money to buy a new one. His determination never wavered. His customers noticed his resilience and supported him even more. Some even gave him extra tips, knowing how hard he was working. This setback, instead of breaking him, made him even stronger. Chapter 11: A New Business Idea. Ahmed started thinking about how he could grow his business beyond selling newspapers. One day, he observed that many shopkeepers struggled with marketing their products. He came up with an idea: what if he created a small weekly business newsletter? With the help of Mr. Hamid, he learned basic designing skills and printed a small flyer that listed different business deals in the area. He sold advertising space in the newsletter to shopkeepers and printed copies at a local press. The idea worked. Shopkeepers were happy because their businesses got more attention, and customers loved reading about new discounts and offers. This new venture gave Ahmed extra income and a deeper understanding of publishing. Step by step, he was moving closer to his dream of owning a newspaper company. Chapter 12: Growing his network. Ahmed learned an important lesson: success is not just about hard work, but also about knowing the right people. He started attending business meetings with Mr. Hamid, listening to conversations between successful entrepreneurs. At first, he felt out of place among wealthy businessmen, but he reminded himself that he was there to learn. He paid attention to how they spoke, how they made deals, and how they thought about money. One day, a businessman asked, "What do you do, young man?" Ahmed confidently replied, "I sell newspapers and publish a small business newsletter." The man was impressed. "You have the spirit of a businessman. Keep going, and you'll achieve great things." These words gave Ahmed even more confidence. He was no longer just a street vendor, he was becoming an entrepreneur. Chapter 13: The Power of Branding. Ahmed realized that if he wanted his newspaper business to grow, he needed to make it a brand. He gave his small newsletter a name: the City Business Journal. He designed a simple logo and started promoting it. People started recognizing his newsletter. Businesses trusted him, and customers waited for the latest edition. He expanded his reach, hiring 2 boys to help distribute copies. As his business grew, so did his earnings. He saved every extra rupee, knowing that one day he would invest in something even bigger. But with success came challenges. Some competitors didn't like a young boy taking business from them. They tried to spread rumors and discourage him. But Ahmed stayed focused, knowing that real success comes from persistence. Chapter 14: Expanding Beyond Newspapers. One day, Ahmed met a shop owner who needed help designing an advertisement. Since Ahmed had learned basic designing skills, he offered to create the ad himself. The shopkeeper loved it and paid him well. This gave Ahmed another idea: offering advertisement design services. He started learning more about graphic design, and soon, businesses began hiring him for their marketing needs. His services expanded beyond newspapers. He designed flyers, posters, and small booklets for different businesses. His small business had turned into a growing media company. Despite his success, Ahmed never forgot where he started. He still woke up early to sell newspapers, reminding himself of the journey that had brought him this far. Chapter 15: The First Printing Press. After years of hard work, saving money, and learning the industry, Ahmed finally reached a major milestone. He had enough money to invest in a small printing machine. It wasn't a giant press, but it was a start. He rented a small shop and set up his printing business. He could now print his own newsletters instead of relying on others. His costs reduced, and his profits increased. His business grew faster than ever. Shopkeepers, small businesses, and even schools started coming to him for printing services. His dream was becoming a reality. One evening, he stood outside his small printing shop and looked at the signboard, Ahmed Printing and Media Services. A tear rolled down his cheek. He had come a long way from being a newspaper seller. Chapter 16: Hiring a Team. Ahmed's printing business was growing fast, and he realized that he couldn't do everything alone. He needed a team. He started by hiring 2 workers, one to manage printing and another to handle customer orders. At first, he found it difficult to trust others with his business. But soon, he understood that delegation was necessary for growth. His employees worked hard, and Ahmed focused on expanding his services. He introduced new services like wedding cards, business brochures, and personalized letterheads. More customers came, and Ahmed's small shop became a well-known printing business in the area. Despite his success, Ahmed remained humble. He still met Mr. Karim and Mr. Hamid regularly, seeking their advice and learning from their experiences. Chapter 17: Overcoming Financial Struggles. Although Ahmed's business was growing, he faced financial challenges. Big printing jobs required expensive materials, and sometimes customers delayed payments. Cash flow became a problem. One evening, he sat with Mr. Hamid, explaining his difficulties. Mr. Hamid advised him, "You need to manage your finances wisely. Keep track of your expenses and always save for emergencies." Following this advice, Ahmed started keeping a proper record of his income and expenses. He also negotiated better payment terms with suppliers, ensuring he always had enough cash to run his business smoothly. Slowly, the financial pressure eased. Ahmed realized that business was not just about making money but also about managing it wisely. Chapter 18: Expanding to a bigger office. As more customers came to Ahmed's shop, space became an issue. The small shop was no longer enough to handle the growing demand. He decided it was time to move to a bigger location. After months of searching, he found a larger space in a busy commercial area. It was expensive, but Ahmed believed in his dream. He took a calculated risk and shifted his business there. The new office attracted even more customers. With a professional setup, businesses trusted him more, and he started getting bulk printing orders from companies and schools. His childhood dream of running a successful business was coming true, but he knew this was just the beginning. Chapter 19: Investing in Advanced Technology. Ahmed noticed that big printing companies used modern machines that produced high-quality prints in less time. His old machines were slow, and he needed to upgrade. Instead of spending all his profits, he reinvested in his business. He took a small business loan and bought an advanced printing machine. It was a risky move, but he believed in his vision. With the new machine, he could complete orders faster, increasing his revenue. His business became even more competitive, attracting corporate clients. He realized an important lesson: success requires continuous improvement and investment in better technology. Chapter 20: Giving Back to the Community. Despite his success, Ahmed never forgot his humble beginnings. He remembered the struggles of being a poor boy selling newspapers. He started a small initiative, offering free printing services for educational materials in poor schools. He also mentored young boys, teaching them business skills. His kindness touched many hearts. People admired him not just for his success, but for his generosity. His story inspired many young boys in his community to dream big. Ahmed understood that true success was not just about making money but also about making a difference in people's lives. Chapter 21: Facing Unexpected Setbacks. Just when everything seemed perfect, Ahmed faced an unexpected crisis. A fire broke out in his office due to an electrical short circuit. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but his printing machines were damaged. For a moment, he felt like his dreams were shattered. But instead of losing hope, he reminded himself of his journey from selling newspapers to becoming a businessman. He had overcome challenges before, and he would overcome this too. With community support, he rebuilt his office. Customers showed loyalty by placing orders despite delays. Slowly, he recovered from the setback. This experience made him stronger, teaching him the importance of perseverance in business and life. Chapter 22: Entering the Digital World. Ahmed realized that the world was changing. More people were reading news online, and printing businesses were shifting towards digital services. He decided to adapt. He launched a website for his business, offering online printing services. Customers could now place orders from their homes, making it more convenient. He also started an online newspaper, providing digital news along with his printed editions. This move attracted a new audience, and his business expanded beyond his city. Ahmed had transformed from a simple newspaper seller into a modern entrepreneur, keeping up with the changing times. Chapter 23: Becoming a Recognized Entrepreneur. Ahmed's story spread across the country. He was invited to business conferences to share his journey. Young entrepreneurs looked up to him as an inspiration. One day, he received a special invitation. He was nominated for an award recognizing young business leaders. Standing on the stage, holding the award, he thought about his journey. He had started with nothing, but through hard work, learning, and perseverance, he had built a successful business. The applause from the audience reminded him that dreams do come true. That night, he looked at the sky and whispered, "I made it, Mama." He knew his late mother would be proud of him. Chapter 24: Expanding into a Media Empire. With his business stable, Ahmed aimed higher. He launched his own newspaper, one that covered real stories and inspired people. His publication became popular because of its honesty and quality content. He also started a media company, producing digital content, business magazines, and social awareness campaigns. Big businesses partnered with him, and his company became a well-known name in the media industry. The boy who once sold newspapers was now the owner of a media empire. But despite his success, Ahmed remained the same humble, hard-working man. He continued mentoring young entrepreneurs, knowing that his journey could inspire many others. Chapter 25: A Legacy of Inspiration. Years later, Ahmed sat in his luxurious office, looking at a framed picture of his younger self selling newspapers. He smiled, remembering the journey that had shaped him. He had built more than a business, he had built a legacy. His life was proof that with hard work, determination, and a willingness to learn, anything was possible. At a business seminar, a young boy approached him and asked, "Sir, I want to be successful like you. What advice can you give me?" Ahmed smiled and replied, "Start where you are. Work hard. Keep learning. Never give up. Your dreams are possible if you believe in them." The boy's eyes shone with hope, and Ahmed saw a reflection of his younger self. He knew that another great journey was about to begin. The end. This story teaches that success comes from persistence, hard work, and a willingness to grow. Ahmed's journey from a poor newspaper seller to a millionaire businessman is proof that anything is possible with dedication and determination.